What's good, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Over Quota. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review if you haven't already. And like always, the J. David Group, which is my company, is sponsoring this podcast. My company helps high growth software companies recruit top software sales leaders and salespeople. Go to the jdavidgroup.com to learn more. My guest today is someone that I've known for almost, I'd say, the span of my existence in this business. We go back, I don't even know, like he was one of the first people that I had probably spoken with way back in the day when I was just sort of cutting my teeth as a recruiter, headhunter, or whatever. So certainly happy to have him on. We reconnected recently during, this crazy year. And I wanted to have him on specifically about his own challenges and personal story with the health battle that he's had for many years, probably as long as we've known each other, and maybe even longer, actually. I'm not sure, but we'll get into that in a minute. And all, of course, that has been going on with the coronavirus, and some of us know people who have had the coronavirus and certainly been majorly impacted. Even, some people have unfortunately lost people due to COVID-19. But I think more broadly, we can all share in the anxiety and challenges that we've had facing these uncertain times as it pertains to work, family, the combination of the two, what it means to us financially, the whole 9 yards. And so I wanted to have him on to talk about, mindset, overcoming certain challenges, and all those things. So without further ado, today's guest is Anthony Buono. He's the strategic partnerships executive for ADP, which of course offers industry-leading online payroll and HR solutions. Anthony, welcome to Over Quota.
Thank you, Jay.
So let's just start there, actually. Give us a sense of what your role as in strategic partnerships is there at ADP.
Sure. So the role with ADP is fairly new. It's been around for about 3-4 years at this point, and I jumped into it because I was ready for the next challenge. And I've been a sales leader, I've been an individual contributor, but I've never had to leverage people from other organizations to help drive my growth, right? My revenue growth. So my role really is I work with partners of ADP, specifically, or mainly, I should say, with benefit brokers, which are really the intermediary between an organization and a healthcare carrier, such as a Blue Cross. And their job is to sell benefits. But because of the overlap with ACA and some other regulations and guidelines that changed, ADP thought it made sense to begin these partnerships with these brokers. So I work with really two main partners. Most people in my role have anywhere from 15 to 30. But what I found was I could focus more time and energy having less partners around both service and support, helping them win business. They help me win business. But the toughest part about the job is you're trying to get people to work for you that aren't even in the same organization. And most of the people in this business have been well established and been in the role for a long time. And brokers, they make their money on their clients, and the longer they have them, the more money they make. So it took a lot of time to establish trust with people or top producing brokers in order for them to feel comfortable to make the introductions to myself and my sales team that kind of work with me and my partners.
How were you able to overcome that? How were you able to overcome the challenge of, frankly, not having the relationships and getting them to trust you and to work with you? What were some of the difficulties, and how were you?
Yeah, it was a challenge, a big challenge, because it's a new role within ADP. My leaders really didn't have a ton of experience in how to develop a game plan. Any sales organization I worked for prior, they give you the playbook, right? They get, okay, it's 24 calls, 50 cold calls. You do these things and it's going to equal X. Well, every day I didn't have really a mentor or a leader to fall back on. So it was constantly reinventing myself. And for a sales guy, it was relatively tough to have to become a service person, right? If someone's unhappy with ADP, a salesperson, hey, you got to call in, you got to call the service center, call your account manager. But I decided to handle these things. So I spent the better half of the beginning of my career here as a glorified service person. I helped escalate and get things resolved. Really, I feel I was like a PR person, right? Because although ADP is ADP, right? That we pay over 40 million people on ADP. We don't want to have a bad name. We have the majority of market share, but I don't want to have a client unhappy with ADP, understand there's a partnership, but I just delegated to someone else. So I really handled a lot of these things, provided things at reduced costs for free to establish a trust and credibility with these people. And sometimes it works, and other times, you have partners that still don't see the value, but when they want something for free, they want something escalated, they call me. So I had to find a way to continue to track results, right? Tracking, dollars saved on their behalf, how I give back, how do I get leads for them? And because I was doing that, I finally kind of broke through and really created not only just partners, but some lifelong friends that I've really had to, I kind of met through this, and they became really good friends of mine. But really overall, the role makes all the sense in the world due to the overlap. But the challenges don't ever stop. And it's again, the toughest assignment I've ever had. I mean, I thought sales leader was by far the toughest. And I always said after 5 years of managing a pretty large team, I said, you know what, I just want to go back to carrying a bag and be responsible for my own destiny. And then here I am, or now I'm relying on someone else. I can't just pick up the phone when I want to make more money. So now it's really relying on them to think of me. I mean, in any role, you go in, you're there to do a job, and sometimes you forget about the other things, right? Maybe if you're a broker and you have other lines of coverage you can do, remember it's property and casualty insurance or it's 401k administration, sometimes you forget about that, and that's even within your own organization. So it was absolutely a battle, a lot of long nights. This is open enrollment season, everyone's enrolling their benefits, and these guys are busy. They're really busy. So how do I keep Anthony Buono top of mind for them? And it's just constantly staying in touch, letting them know changes and how we can support, how I can support. And it took a while, but the first 2 years, year and a half was really learning and trying to develop a plan for me. Because as a sales professional, the goal is to eliminate peaks and valleys. You need consistency, consistent revenue, consistent commission, right? If you're a salesperson, you're concerned about your base salary, you shouldn't be in sales. So how do I figure this out on my own? How do I take what I know and apply it here? So now I've got to the point where, the past couple of years, I've been top 3, currently sitting number 1, and it feels good. But most importantly, what I care about is consistency. I don't necessarily want to get back into a leadership type role at this time, but if I can create consistency, that equals consistent income, and that helps with overall job satisfaction and personally feeling like I'm winning. I don't need the attaboy or pat on the back. You hit President's Club at any organization. That's expectation. That's just doing your job. So how do I go from that to really blowing it out? And I never say, last year I had President's Club hit in the first quarter. But some people might say, I'm going to take time off. I'm going to continue this. I'm going to go have fun. For me, that's like, step on that gas pedal harder and keep going and try to absolutely blow this thing out. And that's what I was able to do.
Let me ask you this. How quickly did you figure out that it was better to go, let's say a mile deep as opposed to a mile wide? Like you said that you had 1 or 2 strategic partnerships that you decided that you were going to focus on, as opposed to where other people had 30 or so. And clearly, if you've been in the top 3 and now most recently number 1, something is working. Like what did you figure out? How quickly did you figure it out? And what are you doing differently, I guess, than some of the folks that aren't?
I think I'm not trying to just sell something, right? I'm a born salesperson. I've always been in sales since I was 16 years old, back when you could do that. I think really having a narrow focus allows me to build lasting relationships, right? And that's not just with the partners, that's with my clients. So when an HR practitioner or CFO is engaged with me. The goal is when they move on to the next organization, they want to call me. When you have more, you can't have that focus. You can't balance sales and service. As much as I want to sell, you still got to help support. You can't just say, oh, that's not my job. You got to do X, Y, and Z. You got to be able to help support and show that you are a trusted partner and that this is a true partnership, right? The broker's job is to open the door for me. That's great. I appreciate that. That's fantastic. But a partner to me is someone that trusts me emphatically. So if I say something as crazy as it may sound, they're going to say, whatever Anthony said, that's gospel, right? You go with that. And if I had more, I wouldn't be able to build up. I'm only one person. I wouldn't be able to build the rapport, the relationships that I have today with these partners. And you know, again, my role specifically really focus on the benefits world, but I work with consultants. I work with commercial real estate brokers. I work with whoever wants to work with me that I trust and I see as a credible person, because I don't want to work with someone that maybe they just aren't good, right? I don't want that to be associated with that. I want to be associated with the top talent. So if I did bring on a new partner, and this is a very small industry in Boston or anywhere, it's very tight knit, they call and get a reference on me, which happens all the time. I want that reference to be fantastic, right? He cares, he does what he needs to do, and I trust him. That's the most important. Without the trust and credibility, you have nothing. I always talk about branding, and your brand is everything, right? I talk about your baseball card, and I learned this from my previous organization. When you flip over that card, you have all these stats, but when you get down to it, like who are you? Who is Anthony Buono? What can he do? How can he help? Can I trust him? And if you lose that credibility, I don't care what you're doing. You're never going to be successful. So branding is everything. Credibility is everything. And I care. And I think that's when I really realized this is too much, right? This is too much. I mean, I could have 15 firms that give me a little bit of business in each one and potentially get to where I need to be, but I'm not really doing what I feel I need to be doing to support my partners when I'm doing that.
It makes all the sense in the world. Tell me about the health challenge that you've had, because I think that's important for people to hear.
Sure. All the way back in third grade, I started experiencing some pretty significant stomach issues, and at that time, no one knew what it was, and they thought it would be a good idea to load me up on a medication that was supposed to help, called prednisone, which for a number of years was on over 100 milligrams, which did permanent damage to my body. So you fast forward, I wasn't one to ever go to my parents or anyone else for that matter. I still have this problem today to complain about something. And it got to a point where, you know, my parents, when they found me passed out on the floor, and I spent a couple of months in the hospital, and they finally realized that I have a form of IBS called ulcerative colitis, which is a disease that is becoming more and more common. And of course, it's one of the leading causes is stress, and I tend to internalize things. But I've had this for, again, the better part of my entire life, and it's progressively became worse year over year. I receive an infusion medication. There's about 5 or 6 drugs on the market. The first 5 ended up not working for me. And now I'm on my kind of last one before I have to go through the awful surgery. And I think people always say to me, like, how do you do it? How do you do it? Well, there's only 2 options, right? I can just lay down and not work and just, you know, be that person. Or I can just figure out how to constantly conquer every day the best I can. And some days are better than others. Other days are tougher. But, you know, it's important to have a system. And my system can't sleep, right? I need to continue moving forward. So even this morning, I had my treatment, and I rushed back to jump on the podcast today. But I go to the gym every day at 6 a.m. I wake up, I go. If I got sick or I had some kind of a flare up, I still go to the gym at 6 o'clock and I sit there. I might not work out, but I sit there because I don't want to break up that routine. Same for work. I think if you spoke to any leader I've ever worked for, they just always say, you laugh adversity in the face. I always find a way to win, and it's nice to have support. But again, being in a role that I was in, and people don't know how to support me, I really had to reinvent myself to figure out how to master this. And I would never quit People said, hey, come try this role, come do this, maybe this one will work. I don't ever want to leave till I absolutely master it, and then I'm ready for the next challenge. And that's always where I've been. I always challenge myself, and it's what got you here won't keep you here. I mean, look at what's happening with COVID, right? Salespeople all around in any industry are struggling, but there's always a way. You just got to figure out the way. And for me, during COVID, everyone, as you said earlier, has had someone affected by this. And for me, being on an autoimmune suppressant medication, I'm at high risk, right? So there was a period of time I wasn't able to see my children for 2.5 months because they had a cold, then they were sick. What is it? So I didn't get to see them. So you take all these things, and it's, yeah, sure, it seems terrible, but it's always worse. You could always have it worse. And it's only terrible if you believe it's terrible. If you sit there and just hem and haw about how terrible my life is and I need a new stomach, and it just doesn't work. I mean, the strangest things have happened. I had this crazy surgery on my esophagus. Apparently, I had acid so bad I was eating away, I didn't even feel it. You know, so I was on a liquid diet for 10 weeks. It's kind of laughable at this point, you know, and I just take it in stride, best I can.
Let me ask you a couple of follow-up questions. How old were you when your parents found you passed out on the floor?
I was in sixth grade, so they didn't know I was even sick until then.
And why, I'm fascinated by this. Why were you reluctant to, and still now, I guess, but reluctant to bring it to their attention, to let them know that you were sick or not feeling well, or, you know, reluctant to ask for help and all that stuff?
It's funny. People ask me this every day, and I never want to be a burden, right? And it's just, unfortunately, it's just the way I feel. And I've been in situations where I've been really sick and I don't call anyone until I was rushed to the hospital, and I let everybody know I'm in the hospital. I think it's just, I don't want people to worry, right? My mother's had cancer multiple times. The first time it was terminal. Like, those are real problems, right? So stomach issues and the side effects that come with that, yeah, sure, they suck. But ultimately, I don't want people to have to worry, right? So, you know, work always tells me you never take vacation. You gotta you gotta just slow down. But I don't do well when I slow down. Forget ulcerative colitis. Forget everything else that I have going on. When I slow down, that's when my mind starts doing things I don't want it to do. So I like to always go. So I don't want people to worry about me because I'll always be okay.
But even when you were like in third grade, that was what, like 9 years old, you had that you intuitively, I guess, felt that way, right? You were just naturally inclined to not want to be a burden. Were there outside influences that early in your life, or just certain things around you that were just like, you know, I don't want anyone to know that how badly I'm feeling right now?
I think, you know, my parents were married for a long time, but the better part of their marriage, it wasn't really a successful one. And I think, you know, I'm Italian, my family's Italian, and they don't really believe in divorce. And, you know, I knew they had their challenges. So at third grade, I just moved into a new town. I was getting to know people, but it was, I don't know. I guess I was kind of just programmed this way, and unfortunately, it's cost me some things in my life, you know. But it's tough.
So where does that, you know, obviously you've managed people, of course, right? You led a team prior, I believe that was at Cintas, and now, of course, you're managing relationships at this point. But at the end of the day, they're the same in the way where you need to, in order to get results, you need to drive certain behaviors and motivate others to do so. With that said, in the mindset that you have, how do you manage certain behaviors and motivate people who, you know, you might look at and say, you know, they don't know how good they have it, I guess, when it comes to health, because they're not getting up and attacking their territory or attacking the day or approaching and solving problems the way that you just have solved problems your entire life? Like, what's your outlook and thought process when you see people that aren't necessarily giving it their all, and then how do you motivate them to do so? As you grin.
When I was a sales leader, I had 15 people reporting to me, and these are younger folks that are making really good six-figure money. And I had people that played Division I sports, and they call me for my Monday morning meeting and say, I have a cold. What I say back maybe wasn't 100% PC, but it was like, you can't, in sales we have a quota, right? Whether it's monthly, it's weekly, it's annually, whatever it is. Time is all you have. So before you know it, snap of the fingers and your year is over. You need to capitalize on every day, no matter if it's professional or personal. Time is all you have. Every day matters. So I completely empathize with people when they have the sniffles. I got it. You don't feel well. I understand. It's hard to get out of bed. I totally understand. And as you can tell, I'm an open book, and my message is the same, with the subtraction of a couple words. But if I can get out of bed with what I have going on, you need to get in here, because I need you and you need this, right? It's all about goals. You told me what your goals were. This is what you want to do, both personally and professionally. You give a day away, that's a day you're never getting back. And I think I can easily relate to that role and how it was to motivate this 23-year-old that just had a $140,000 W-2, and they don't want to get up because it's raining and they don't feel well. You're a Division I athlete. I think you got it, right? So I think in this role, it's different. I think maybe the age demographic I'm dealing with, at that point, they are who they are. So they hear my story, they know what I'm all about, and in hopes that, I hope that drives them to be better in what they do. I mean, I was talking to one of my clients the other day. She's been in the business for almost 30 years, and she's always been a peak performer, and she's significantly behind right now. And she said, I'm trying to do things different. I'm reinventing myself. Like, that's the person I want to surround myself with, because if you're doing X every day and you've been doing that for the past 25 years and it's not getting you anywhere, why the hell do you keep doing it? Why do you keep doing it? You've got to change. And it's leaning into that discomfort. If you can't lean into discomfort in order to grow, like, I can't be a part of that.
Speaking of discomfort and growing, when you're at the gym and with all this that's going on, you're immunosuppressed. How are you? First of all, why are you at the gym? Given the fact that I guess it's, to a certain extent, it's dangerous for just people who, like me, who are healthy. But then you are, like you said, with a compromised immune system. What's your mindset there, and how are you protecting yourself?
I've been here at the gym a number of times. The gym I go to is a private gym, and for the better part of the gym being established, it was a powerlifting gym. But I was only going there for personal training. I wanted to lose weight, right? I just came off a long run of prednisone, which, essentially causes you to put on a lot of weight, and I wanted to lose it all. And, I'm in there doing burpees and these other things that I'm just not built for. And I see all these big guys, 10, 15 guys in this gym, this garage type atmosphere. And I'm like, man, I think I want to try that. And I got into it, and I competed 3 times. All 3 times I came in first place. There was injuries along the way. I think one of the toughest parts about my body today is that my joints are aged for 15 years more than me because of the medication, what it's done to me. So I've had to be smarter. I don't power lift, but I do enjoy lifting weights. It's a way for me to let out my aggression. And because I have this problem of not being able to open up to people, this is my outlet. So without it, I don't know if I'd even be sitting here talking to you today, because I'd be like the people that I don't want to be around. So it's just like anything else. You find a way, and you find something you love. Like I've brought so many people there. You know, people make fun of me. I'm always the guy that's got a guy. I've brought so many people there that come in for a little while. Like, this is hard. I don't like this. I'm going to go do P90X. No, you're not. You're not. You'll put that DVD in and you'll do it for a day and you'll be done. It takes 3 weeks to establish a habit. So if you don't stick this out for 3 weeks, then just leave now. I don't even want you here. Like, I'm here to work. If you want to work, come with me. So that's just, it's the mindset that I carry.
But are you, when you're in the gym at 6 o'clock in the morning, are you with like multiple, are there a lot of people in there? Are you close? I'm just curious. Again, this just goes to mindset. Are you wearing a mask, not wearing a mask?
Yeah. Yeah, there's 3 people in the gym. It's a private gym, and it's essentially it's a garage. It's in a strip of garages. And look, what I'll say is there's 2 things I can do with COVID-19. I can shelter in place and not be near anyone, including my children. My son's in preschool. I mean, that's a breeding ground, right? Yeah, they're sanitized wherever they are. But look, the first week back, a kid got COVID. So I could do that. Is that the smart thing to do? Most likely. But I have to do what I have to do. And I'm not just saying I'm living on the edge, but I have to make decisions that are going to continue to help me both physically and mentally. So as much as you stated, you're a healthy guy, I'm a healthy guy, right? I have my challenges, but I'm a healthy guy, right? I take a lot of supplements and a lot of zinc to make sure my immune system's strong. And like a day like today, I get out of treatment, this is when it's most compromised. So technically I should be really careful. Technically I shouldn't go to the gym tomorrow, but I'll be at the gym tomorrow.
Those are those weights, by the way, that often they have chains. Don't you used to use like chains and those types of things on the weights? I had a friend who was a power lifter for a while and competed. Those are the kinds of weights that you're using, like they're different colors and they have chains that like go to the floor.
Yeah, we used to, but now
Okay.
it's a little different now.
Okay.
It's still a weightless gym. I do cardio, not a lot. I'm just not, I'm too fat and stocky for that. But I do like to lift weights, and I track everything I do, and it's always about how I can, whether it's more reps or it's more weight. It's just like my professional growth. It's not about how heavy I can lift anymore. That I had that fun. I paid for it a couple of times with back injuries, once again because of medication. And the ironic part was the times I got hurt, it was just me warming up. Being carried out of there by 2 guys that, are absolute monsters because I couldn't walk. And then I spent 3 weeks in the hospital. But, yeah, no more chains, less grunting. So, yeah.
For the record, I actually started and completed P90X once, and then
Boy.
and then did P90X twice, and I think P90X, and I think P90X 3 maybe once. So I'm like the opposite. I'm one of those beach body guys that's just always doing something in the in my home.
And if you weren't, Jay, I wouldn't be on this podcast today. All right? This is the people I'm going to surround myself with. People that commit to something and they finish it. I also have ADHD. People like me have tough time finishing things. I don't. I'll get it done, right? And I think it's seeing it through. That's like the moral of the story. It's to see things through. Something's hard, doesn't work, figure out a way to make it work. If you don't figure out a way to make it work, then you're making excuses. And it's like, who are you then at that point?
It's interesting too. You bring up ADHD. It's you have ADHD on one side, but you have the unwavering will to commit and to start something and finish something on the other, right? It's like 2 opposing actions, I guess, if you will, or whatever you want to call it. Lose you now. Hello?
Yep.
You can hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay, good. My microphone was like screwing up a little bit. Yeah, but they're like 2 opposing actions, and obviously your strong will beats out that other side that, maybe you're wired to start something and then bounce to the next thing, so that's very interesting to hear. All right. Now, Speaking of ADHD, I'm getting distracted because my microphone keeps changing from my microphone to the laptop. All right, cool. It's back on here. All right, so let's close it out with something that I like to call the rapid fire 5, which is just 5 questions that I'll ask you for us to help to get to know you a little bit more in a different way, and then you can answer them. All right, you ready?
Go.
Right. What are you most excited about right now, either personally or professionally?
Professionally, God, it's supposed to be rapid fire. Professionally, I think I live in the now. I really do. I think professionally, I think it's about finishing up this quarter strong, and I think people would laugh at that and be like, "What?" But big picture. Unfortunately, on a personal note, I'd love to say I'm excited to go on a vacation. I'm excited to do these things, but I think professionally, it's about finishing what I started. And I started this year off extremely slow. I think I got to my number at 9 o'clock on the very last day of the quarter. I think professionally, I'm just looking to continue to blow this thing out of the water.
Actually, let me ask you, just going back to something personally, is you mentioned that you're on the medication that you're on is, what would you say it's the 5th medication that you've been on for this, or that you've tried?
Yeah, it's like the 5th one. Yep.
And is there another medication after this, or is there going to be the surgery that you kind of alluded to if it doesn't work, I guess?
Yeah, so there's one other medication that my wouldn't be covered through my insurance. So the last ditch effort would be colon removal. So there's obviously a fear there, but if I did have that done, I no longer have problems. But there's all the things you have to deal with for a period of time. So fortunately, the medications work pretty well. It's with least amount of side effects. I mean, you lose some chunks of your hair, or I'm now allergic to the cold, which I didn't even know was a real thing.
Wait, allergic to what?
Because of the other medications. For the cold, it's called cold urticaria. It's pretty rare.
Wow.
But essentially, I'm not even cold. But if it is cold, I break out these really itchy hives.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's strange. Yeah. Yep.
Well, you've got a beautiful head of hair, so I don't think that. I don't think.
Yeah, thank you.
Actually kicked in, which is something I'm absolutely jealous of. If you're listening to this, we'll watch it on YouTube to see. What activity do you miss the most since the pandemic arrived?
I think being able to do things with my kids outside. I think I'm in this place where it's I don't know what to do, right? Because I'm at risk. I don't want them to be at risk. There's these little petri dishes. I bring them out. My daughter the other day licked the floor. I was worried for a second, like, why is she doing that, right? But I think just being able to spend that time and really get to know my kids better, it'd be great. I think it just being able to travel, right? Our President's Club trip last year was to Dublin and was obviously canceled. Just being able to take a vacation, because I know I need one, but I can't do it.
Sounds like you wouldn't take one anyways, based on this interview.
I'm usually pushed. I'm pushed significantly by a leader and threatened.
Wow. What do you want to get better at right now?
I think as I said earlier, you want to always master what you do. And although I think I'm better at what I do, I need to be the best at what I do. So even though I have these established relationships, I continue to evolve and tweak things to become better and more efficient. Because back to the time statement, if I could continue to maximize my time and not be stuck on calls for the entire day, I'd be more effective. So constantly developing myself or redeveloping myself and coming up with new ideas in order to make my life a little bit easier at times is what I'm trying to do. I think it's funny, things always relate back to my professional life, but really that's kind of where it all starts, right? Without money, you can't do anything. So it's doing these things and that I try to master on a daily basis.
I hear you on that. What keeps you motivated?
Winning, I think. It's funny, I'll finish a quarter and everyone's like, that was great. And why aren't you happy? My VP says, why are you smiling? You just killed it. I think in my previous organization, it was instilled in me that you have to, it's great for a second, live it up, but what's next, right? And I think that as a sales professional, it's financial success, but it's my own personal, like I don't need the extrinsic. It's just, it all comes from me. Winning makes me feel good, whether I'm smiling or not. I like to win. That's the bottom line. And that's all I want to do in sales. And I like helping people. People call me a lot that are in the role. The role's had some turnover throughout the years because it's a process, right? You come into sales, you want to sell, make money tomorrow. And again, if you don't stay committed to it, you don't win, and you'll never win. So I helping people, even if it's external partners, right? How to use LinkedIn more effectively, or something could be something as trivial as that. It's just, I like to help people, and that does help keep me motivated.
Last question. Can you share a piece of advice or a tool that you use to help you stay productive?
I don't know if I think it's all about organization. I think in sales, we have tools, right? You have Salesforce, you have these other tools, but I think you've got to figure out a system that works for you. And that's in life too. It's just a system and a process. I'm very much process oriented from the way I wake up and when I brush my teeth to when I do my hair, it's all a process. And I think in sales, if you don't have organization, you fail. And it's, you talk to somebody and maybe you tell them it's not a good time for them to make a move right now, follow up with me. It's something as small as that, like making sure you have that process to follow up with them. And I do use a number of spreadsheets to track things, which I'm not an Excel wizard by any means, but it all always for me comes back to organization. I have my sales team, and you open up their briefcase and there's like yesterday's lunch and there's this, like, how can you be successful, right? And even if you're new, fake it till you make it, right? Come in and look like a pro. Don't come in and open up your notepad and stuff falls out and you're sitting there and you're flipping through the pages and your scribbles and drawings. Like, look like a pro. And you walk in and you feel good, you look good, you're going to be able to sell. But it all comes back to like that organization, having that system. So I think if you're a salesperson, you're listening to this, like, make sure your system works. Make sure it's clean. It's easy to read. You're not confused by your own system. And I think that, you have tools internally at your organization, but that's not always the best tool for you. And someone with ADHD, I had to figure out what works for me. And at one point I had 16 different pipeline spreadsheets. I have a pipeline I could use, but I kind of get to where, I'm using this one. They're a little different than everybody else, but this is what works for me. And this is where I can give you the most accurate data. And usually people say, okay, that's perfect. We'll take that.
Oh man, I can relate to that so much as well. I'm a systems, process, and automation person, for sure. Like, you probably even saw it when you scheduled this call. It's like, schedule it, you get an email, you get another email, you get those things. And I do it with everything. I do it with my personal life. I do it with my professional life. On the outside looking in, people don't necessarily, because I'm happy-go-lucky, sort of careless kind of a person as people meet me. But in order for me to make everything work, I need to have process and systems, because I'm like you, right? I don't know. I've never been diagnosed with ADHD or ADHD, whatever, right? But just my nature is, I think at its core, is to sort of tend to want to bounce around. So without a process or without a system, and those guardrails sort of keep me focused and making sure that I'm heading in the right direction, is just so important to me. So that way, because I go hard and I go fast and I don't like to stop and all that stuff. I like to just keep going. But as a result, historically, a lot of stuff breaks when that happens for me, right? In other words, I'm just
Mm-hmm.
going, I'm just looking forward. I'm like, okay, get to the next one, get the next one, get the next. Okay, now I got to do this. Things start to break. So I'm like, all right, how can I prevent things from breaking? I need some sort of a net, a fail safe. And for me, it's the process, it's the system. So as long as those things are in place, then I can go as hard and as fast as I want to, right? But without them, then who knows? Not only
Well,
hurting
I
myself,
think,
but I'm hurting other people,
right. Well, you just delegated this whole meeting and setup of the meeting through technology, the use of technology.
Right.
You can't be afraid to delegate, right? And I think just by doing that, it helps you and it helps me. I mean, you buy something on Amazon. Okay, you get an email, you purchased it. You get another email that is processing. You get another email, it's shipped. And you get another email, a picture of it on your doorstep.
Yes.
That's what you need. Versus you order something online, 6 weeks go by and you don't have an email. Like, wait, did I even order it? I'll order it again, right? And by you doing that, I didn't even reach out to you. I had the reminder. I had everything else I needed for this meeting.
Yep.
It was perfect, smooth, my
That's
style.
right. That's right. And I'm laughing because sometimes, like, yeah, I've had instances where I'm like, where did I order this? Where did I order that? Where did I order it from? When? Like, it's kind of like,
Right.
yeah, absolutely. You're right. So yeah, process and system for sure. And then there's one other question, which is, how can people follow up with you? Maybe they have a question that I didn't ask that they want to know, or just to say thank you for sharing your experience with them, your life with them.
Yeah, they can. I think the best way to contact me is via LinkedIn. It's the only social media that I have, and I'm happy about that. I think that's the best way to contact me. I check it often, and I would say that's the best way to go about it.
Fantastic. Anthony Buono, thank you for going over quota with me and my listeners.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Goodbye, everyone. Cue the music.